Cannonless has to be one of the most infamous tricks in Super Mario 64 speedrunning history. What seems like a fun little glitch to show off to friends when one starts out, quickly becomes one's doom of existence when getting better, as it is notorious for being a huge reset point in the speedruns. Speedrunners have found insane strategies to make the star faster over the years, going first for close to fully normalized setups like the famous sock folder method, then to faster versions like texture setup, where you skip the setup with all the punches and backflips by just aligning yourself with the texture, all the way to crazy YOLO methods like the OG Cannonless, where one just runs into the wall, or the more recent Salt Cannonless, which is rather complicated to explain, but you basically do some crazy camera setups and it somehow just works. There is one thing that all of these setups have in common though: they are not consistent. What feels like out of nowhere, any kind of setup with this star seems to stop working on some days, and random misses happen all over the place. While this is all true for the visual speedruns, it is even more so for Blindfolded. Cannonless is literally one of the biggest reset points for players of all skill levels. I cannot stress enough how many runs this little trick has killed for me. I hate this star with such a burning passion that I have tried to reroute it myself more than any other star in the game for Blindfolded. And yet, whenever I found a new approach that seemed to be faster or more consistent, it worked decently well for a while, until, well, it didn't anymore. And the most frustrating thing about all of this was that, as a very technical player with lots of detailed knowledge about the movement and how the physics work in this game, I had no idea why it kept failing over and over and over again. It was driving me nuts. Consistent and normalized setups, even with save states here and there, brought in different kind of results and I had no idea why. Well, that was until June 18th, 2024, the day where I found the solution to all of my problems. The day I found the holy grail of blindfolded speedrunning, a 100% consistent and fast Cannonless setup. Before we talk about the new strat, let us take a brief look at the history of how this whole star has developed over the past 7 years. I also have a very quick overview about this topic as an exclusive Patreon and YouTube member video called The History of Blindfolded Cannonless, so check it out if you're interested. It all started back in the days in 2017, where I came up with a very simple first approach to Cannonless. First, I went up to the upper level of Worm's Fortress, which took quite a while, and then I normalized in, God bless, this lovely corner here, by following the wall and ledge grabbing it. Little did I know back then that this corner is still used in 2024, and the normalization it provides basically was utilized in close to every major strategy of Blindfolded Cannonless so far. Anyways, the blindfolded approach continues by using some movement options like backflips and punches to align with the wooden plank and ledge grab right next to it. Seems familiar? Yes, this is the position of the classic sock folder setup used in visual speedruns. To summarize the sock folder setup, from the ledge grab, you backflip, turn the camera, punch, slow walk down, ledge grab, camera right, camera left, slowly get up, buffer the stick into the down notch during the animation. And just like this, you got a star. Or not, because this trick is absolute garbage. But yeah, if you try this approach a few times, it will surely work eventually. I think at this point it is still very understandable why this trick fails sometimes. A pretty precise position is needed on the plank, and mostly, depending on where exactly you ledge grab on the right side of the plank, it will vary a bit. Especially with this old setup, the up tap and the right tap here are what unnormalizes the strategy, as Mario's positioning changes depending whether you tap for 1 frame on the stick, 2 frames, or even half a second. It will always be a tiny bit different. This is exactly what my second strategy wanted to minimize. Not only did I save lots of time by using the owl to get to the normalization corner quicker, which, shoutouts to old Bubzia, is a pretty damn smart idea looking back, but I also used the wall in my setup. This reduced the amount of times I touched the stick by 1, as the final slow walk down should always result in the same position anyways. The rest of the strategy stayed the same. Backflip, camera, punch, slow walk down, ledge grab, camera, do the trick and pray. The consistency definitely went up, but it was still not great at all. Eventually, in 2019, the legendary Nobody started to play the game blindfolded and came up with his own setup for Cannonless. While skipping the owl entirely and just using absolute godgamer movement up the slope, Nobody also had some new ideas for the corner normalization that I want to point out here. A C left during the ledge grab normalizes the camera in always the same position, so now you don't have to worry about all the prior movement that could affect the camera anymore. Then, Nobody punches twice and does 1 tiny up tap, with the big emphasis on tiny, as a fully notched input here would hug the wall. He just barely puts the joystick out of the dead zone so that Mario basically turns on the spot. Then, without needing any more movement that could mess you up, he uses a normalized jump kick against the wall and slow walks into the classic cannonless position. And from here, you know the game. Yep, absolute piece of shit. Nobody's ideas were good and especially fast, but nothing helped the inconsistency that is cannonless. You might have also noticed that nobody does a little punch cancel here on the wooden bridge before slow walking down. This is a technique that high level players usually use to cut the animation shorter and to guarantee a high starting speed. Nobody used it here to position himself a tiny bit differently on the bridge though, since depending on whether you punch cancel early or late, you can gain or lose some distance compared to a normal punch. And you can see that by Mario doing a little turn after the punch instead of going down straight like usual. These were some high level techniques, but as I said, cannonless is just cannonless and it can fail randomly. When I came back in 2021 to Blindfolded 16 star, I mostly adapted nobody's strategy, but with one minor change. Instead of punch cancelling the slow walk down, I simply did 2 ledge grabs, and that worked. For some reason, the double ledge grab that I have never really seen visual runners going for seemed to increase my consistency by quite a lot. I would say, after using this strategy, the consistency rose from around 60 to 80%, which is huge for speedruns. My reasoning for why the double ledge grab worked was pretty naive, as I thought it just puts you closer to the wall and hence increases your chances for cannonless. But of course, it is not just as easy as that. The strategy still kept failing sometimes. We have normalized most of the setup by now, so what could be the issue still? Well, the most likely reason that I have deducted was still one of the unnormalized joystick inputs. More precisely, the slight up tap against the wall here. Even if Mario only turns up 1 millisecond longer or shorter, it will already make a difference at the angle you get from kicking the wall. And this would give you a tiny bit of a different position for the ledge grab again, and hence sometimes fail the cannonless. At least that was my suspicion over all these years. But long story short, this strat was finally good. I was satisfied. I still got really angry when it failed in runs because, well, haha, you just lost the run to RNG, dude. But the reset rate went down severely after the double ledge grab strategy. It actually became so good that I challenged myself and took a test of speed and consistency. The official 10 times cannonless in a row category on speedrun.com. Yes, this really exists and just proves my point that literally every single speedrunner of Super Mario 64 hates this trick like the pest, to such a degree that they need a 10 times in a row category just to show how good it would actually be if you hit it that often in a row. So yeah, I decided to try this blindfolded just to prove that my new strategy was indeed pretty good. Three. I'm getting back to my old skill, guys. Four. Five. Dude, we're getting good again. 6. 7. 8. I had this big hiccup at number 2. I will do 12 and then I have a better time. 9. Due to consistency though, it's crazy. That's 10. I will do 12, because if I submit this to the leaderboard, the second one was so bad. I will get 12 and then it's a better time. 11 and last one. Are you kidding me? The last one, dude. At this point, it's probably faster if I just do the first 10. I don't care, dude. I will do one more. 10 times Cannonless, averaging 33 seconds per attempt with basically no failures. The final time was recalculated to 9 minutes and 41 seconds. World's first blindfolded completion of this category, yay! This definitely proved that this strat was kind of consistent, and for the time I used it, it was also really fast with the 33 second average. This seemed like the best strategy for blindfolded Cannonless, and so people moved on to optimize other stars. That was until 12th July 2023. That day, I woke up in the morning and had an absolute revelation, an idea that would change Cannonless forever. At that point, I have already improved the beginning movement towards the normalized corner a lot, which earned me a new average for the star of around 25 seconds. The rest of the star stayed the same throughout the years though. But that day, when I woke up, I had one extremely simple and in hindsight so obvious thought. Why the hell are we doing the up tap kick against the wall? Over these past 4 years since nobody started this strategy, did really nobody think about just skipping all of that? It is one simple input. Why do we not just jump over the plant with a full down notch? That would save time in the setup and make it 100% consistent in position, as the last unnormalized joystick input would be removed. I tried it and, well, $21.45, dude! Sub 22 seconds, multiple seconds faster on average, easier to perform, and more consistent in position. It is incredible to me that I or nobody else came up with this idea earlier. But hey, better late than never, right? Finally, we have solved Cannonless once and for all, and the blindfolded strat was finally perfect. Oh boy, we are so back. Yes, the strat now has no unnormalized inputs anymore. The camera and Mario's position are always fixed. The strategy is perfect. And yet, it still fails randomly. At this point, I had absolutely given up hope for the star since nothing seems to work. I ran out of ideas as to what could possibly be the reason for this inconsistency. The good thing is, with the new strat, the inconsistencies became very rare. I would say the success rate rose up to around 90%, which also is demonstrated in this new blindfolded Cannonless 10 times in a row world record that I set with the new strat in only 6 minutes and 55 seconds. So it has become faster and more consistent. That's great, right? 8th April 2024. I am very sure this will not work. This was one of the ideas where, like, just in my head, I had an idea and it played out well with the camera and all, but in theory it will probably go much worse. Oh. Ayo. So we need the strat to go behind the fence. That should be easy to find. So just go here to the fence. Kick C left. Ayo. Yeah, this seems horrible though. It seems to work, but it seems pretty bad. It kind of works though. I had a pretty consistent setup to get behind the fence, but I don't remember it anymore. Oh, like this, okay. Or am I? Dude, this kind of works. This kind of works. So my PB is 20 seconds, 0.62 is the PB. Second PB, this works, dude. That day I was cooking. Like, it was an absolutely crazy routing session. The idea of the new strat was following. by jumping over the fence and kind of aligning with the texture on the wall, then doing a kick into camera C left, and then punch cancelling a long jump into the down left notch, should perfectly set Mario into the cannonless position. There were multiple problems with this strategy, and of course it seemed like a single star strat or something, but definitely nothing I would do in runs. Still, it was a completely new approach since years of the normalization corner, so I just messed around with it a bit more. I learned the beat counts for the strategy and started practicing a bit. I need to jump more? I don't understand the slope jump right now. Yes! Sub 17! Let's go! A sub 17-second time, 5 seconds faster than the old strategy, in a time where I do extremely risky and hard strategies to save 1 to 2 seconds in the run for the sub 20 blindfolded. A 5-second time save was close to unheard of. 5 seconds was so incredibly huge that I took a little gamble and tried to make the strat work as much as I could. I started doing it in runs, with the thought that it is early enough in the run that I can simply reset and retry if I fail it. And sure enough, it worked surprisingly well. Yeah, if it works, it's so fast. That's the thing, like if it actually works, it's such an amazing strat, dude. But as you can also imagine, there were more often times that it failed than that it actually worked. The first problem was the inconsistent position after the long jump ledge grab. Of course, since Mario will always be in a tiny bit different position there, Cannonless again started to randomly fail most of the time. The biggest issue with the strat though was that it introduced a second point of failure, which is the long jump itself. If your position is off even in the slightest bit and you long jump slightly too early or too late, you can miss the ledge grab entirely or bonk against the bridge. And that is not all. You could also get unlucky with the camera angle so that you perfectly bounce on the piranha plant and, well, the run would be dead. Of course, there's also the problem of overshooting, which I luckily figured out a quick backup for by cancelling a backflip and manually walking back into position. But long story short, this strat was amazingly fast, but the consistency was only at a low 40%, which frankly speaking sucks. Especially in 16 star with the LBLJ route, the run is already front loaded with so many reset heavy strategies: LBLJ, Dark World Reds, Cannonless, and right afterwards Logless. Since I implemented this strat into runs, I barely ever made it past the first few minutes of the game, which was extremely discouraging and mentally draining. It even stands as the biggest current time loss in the 16-star world record, as I went for it in the run and it failed. I was just not satisfied with how things went, so I wanted to find a solution once and for all. And that's where it gets interesting, because remember, this whole video is about how I finally solved this trick, right? Well, hear me out. It was another stream like any other. I did some run attempts that died and then went back to Cannonless practice as the new strat kept failing me. I tried over and over again but could not find any solution for my problem. That was until one of my viewers sent a link into my chat. This is a follow-up to my original testing for textures setup Cannonless. The document can be found here. For this text, Mario's XOLY is inventory 0.1 units. At each tested XOLY, I changed Mario Cam a certain number of frames after the getup. Here's the original graph and a top visualization. Both show the data between 1050 and 1075. So, okay, so there are literally just like gaps basically that will not work. Is that how I can read this? My results can be visualized below. Green means Cannonless works, while red means it doesn't. So as you can see, there are quite a few holes where Cannonless will not work. This is a document by a friend of mine named Dakich. Dakich is mostly known for his SM64 ROM hack speedruns, but he's also an active vanilla runner. And yeah, Dakich wrote a script and figured out all the coordinate values for which Cannonless works and for which it doesn't. The reason why Cannonless fails so randomly is because there are literally holes in terms of position where Mario will simply not hit the right spot in the wall to grab the star. And looking at this graph, the best approach would be to aim for sector 12, because it has the widest range of positions that work. Now, this graph does not show the proper scale of the plank in real life, so while sector 12 here looks huge, it actually is incredibly small. Here is a little visual representation of the range that is sector 12. Barely a noticeable difference, right? So for the entire next 3 hours on stream or so, I booted up a memory viewer so I could see my position and conducted absolute cannonless science. 6-3. 6-3 does work. So my strat is incredibly good. It turns out, my long jump strat usually ends up between sector 10 and sector 12, which is pretty decent, but it also explains the unreliability of it. And that is where things get really complicated. ESS coin is always a readjustment back. So if we ESS down here on the regrab, we could still do this. Okay, I understand. Let me present to you the blindfolded equivalent to texture setup, sound setup. Basically, to not make it too complicated, with the help of the memory viewer, I created multiple scenarios that can happen based on the coin sound during the setup. If we, for example, grab the first coin during the long jump, we are doing a different setup than if we do not grab it, and dependent if the sounds of the coins after the backflip are spaced or right after each other. We also have to do different setups. The goal is basically to always guarantee that we are close to sector 12. Here are a few examples of how it actually works. Got the coin, flank push, coin slow. Coin slow means boom. Okay. No coin. Fast coins. No coin on ESS. Regrab. And then we need to go. We just need to go, I think, if we do the regrab here. Yeah. It has potential to fail. With this knowledge, I made like 10 different setups for different scenarios and tried to perform them in runs dependent on what scenario happened. Of course, this was incredibly difficult, both in terms of execution and memorization, but it kind of worked. It was at least better than fully relying on RNG about which position we get. The consistency got up to around 70% with this, but unfortunately, that does not include the failures of over or undershooting the long jump. Even worse, trying to figure out the setup mid-run and actually performing the additional ledge reps, etc. cost time again. So the 5-second time save quickly shrinked to only around 2 or 3 seconds. And despite everything, there was still room for failure because of the incredibly precise positions that are needed for some of the setups. So after all, the strat had less time save and was still inconsistent. After the initial high of finally understanding the trick fully, I was severely depressed about the result. All that work, all the effort I put into this star, and it did still not work as I wanted it to. But it was the best I had, so I just kept going with it until one day I gave up and finally broke. But you see, that was still 20 seconds. Is it not worth doing my old setup, dude? Is it not maybe worth doing my old setup? I just feel somehow that the old setup, while it was still failing, I somehow trust it more that it doesn't fail because of bull. I don't know. I'm just confused. Whichever setup you go with, you will curse it within the next few runs. Yeah, it's just cannonless. Though, I have to say, we did not check the old cannonless with the list of, you know, when we did like the super crazy research. We did not do the research with the old setup. Maybe we could find something like 100% consistent. And so I yet again went back to the memory viewer and analyzed the old strat. Remember, the 90% consistent one with around 22 to 23 second average. I did the same kind of research with the coins and positional values for around 1 hour only. That is all it took. The beginning stays the same as before. We jump onto the bridge and find the normalized corner. We normalize the camera there, punch twice, and do the normalized jump over the plant. The ledge grab position here is mostly fixed. Remember, it was only 90% consistent last time though. Turns out, depending on either how fast you slow walk down or through some completely random ledge grab mechanics that I still do not understand honestly, there can still be a tiny variance in position after a ledge grab, whether you are fully normalized before or not. But that all does not matter. What I found with my old strategy and the mem reviewer was that I always ended up in the upper range of sector 12. Always. It either worked so consistently because it landed right in sector 12, or sometimes it failed, remember the 10%, because the ledge grab shenanigans did put me a tiniest bit above the threshold. 7-2. That's just barely not in the range. This will fail, but like by like 1 pixel. Perfect. Yeah, 21-20. That's not even that slow. 21-20 is not bad. Backflip into punch cancel. We have gone full circle. What nobody already tried in 2019 was the key to all of our problems. What it lacked was the full normalization of the new jump over the plant setup. But combining all these strategies that we have developed over the years, I am now proud to present you the Holy Grail, a 100% consistent cannonless setup for blindfolded speedruns with an average runtime of only 21 to 22 seconds. The positional setup before the planks guaranteed us to always be at the very edge of the upper range of sector 12, and the punch cancel after the backflip always will guarantee us to land inside, as it gives a bit more distance than just a normal punch. The best thing is that you land in sector 12 for all possible values. It doesn't matter if you get unlucky with the ledge grabs, or if you already are in sector 12 after the backflip, or whatever. This strat basically mathematically guarantees you to land the trick. The only thing that can fail at this point is human input, by not performing the punch cancel slower correctly, for example. To be fair though, I was still skeptical. You know how I've been treated by the star in the past. I could simply not trust this. So right after routing this and without any kind of real practice yet, I set out and did the one test of consistency that I do trust. Blindfolded freaking 10 times cannonless in a row. Now with the new punch cancel strat. Yeah, it's so good. This strat is so good, dude. Two. 3. 4. It actually works, it's insane. 5. What? Oh no. Back up, back up. 6. I fat fingered the wrong C button there. 7. 8. It's actually consistent. Crazy. 9. 'Huge world record, what the f. 10 out of 10. New world record by 43 seconds. Literally first try after routing. This strat is insane. Not only is it perfectly consistent, it also still managed to save some average time over the previous strategy. I was beyond happy. My mortal enemy, Cannonless, a star that I have been dreading to face in every single one of my runs, finally lost its difficulty and randomness. You cannot imagine the mental relief when entering Womps, and you do not need to fear that a completely random influence will just kill your run in a second. It is one of the best feelings I have felt during my entire speedrunning career. Happiness and relief. Finally, I solved Cannonless once and for all. Since then, I have been using the strategies in runs for probably more than 50 to 100 attempts now, and I maybe have failed this twice. 100% possible that it was my fault in terms of inputs, but the difference between the past and now is absolutely staggering. And what makes me super happy is the fact that this will not only help me in the grind for the sub 20, but Cannonless is basically in all other categories represented as well. 70 star, 120 star, 31 star, beat Dark World. This trick is everywhere, and now pros and newcomers alike will have a way to remove randomness from their daily speedrunning life. Thank you so incredibly much for watching. I really wanted to make this video because I am so excited about the strategy that I just wanted to share the whole story with the world. If you have any feedback to the storytelling or the video in general, please let me know in the comments so I can improve in the future. It is often hard for me to judge how easily blindfolded concepts and stuff are understood from the outside, as I do this every day since so many years, so any input is appreciated. Also huge shoutouts to all my supporters over at Patreon, especially KingReubs, Farrell, Boris, Benlitz and ZXMany. All the other ones as well, of course. Thank you so much and see you soon with more blindfolded awesomeness. Bye bye.